Happy January, everybody. Happy New Year. New Year's in Canada. It's super snowy outside in Vancouver now, although it rained last night, so now it's just like a big slush storm out there. Feeling very Canadian, those Canadian winters. Mila's wearing her Canadian tuxedo. So yeah, things are good, you know. And yeah, Happy New Year. And I'm 30 now. Just turned 30, had my 30th birthday. And it's crazy, you know. I just wanted to reflect on that for a second. It's like, I don't know, feels like I'm getting so old, but at the same time, I know I still have a long ways to go. And it's crazy. It's like, I remember like, it feels like it was only a couple days ago that I was in high school, you know, playing guitar in the band room during lunch hours with all these dreams, you know, of accomplishing things with my guitar. And at that age, when I was like 17, 18, 20 seemed ancient, you know. 30 felt light years away, like it would never happen, but kind of happened in the blink of an eye. So it's crazy, but I'm very fortunate for the opportunities I've had, and I feel like I've accomplished so many things to be proud of in that time. So yeah, here we are at 30, and yeah, welcome back to another video. So, you know, I really do feel lucky that I'm in a position where I've got a puppy who digs my couch. Mila, no digging in the couch. You know, I do feel lucky that I'm in a position where I've pretty much accomplished everything I set out to do when I was 18, when I moved away from home to pursue music. You know, I remember at that age, I wanted to tour in a tour bus. That was my main thing. I wanted to get on big tours. I wanted to play for famous artists. I wanted to be in music videos, see myself on TV, you know, hear myself on the radio, you know, be endorsed by gear companies that I played, you know, be on their websites and stuff like that. That was always what I wanted to do. And with a lot of hard work, I was able to make that happen. And I think that's a really lucky position to be in. So we're gonna be talking about that kind of thing today. And we're also gonna be talking about the other side of it. Let's say you set out to do something and you don't quite reach the level you wanted to. We're gonna talk about how that falls into place as well. You know, I remember when I was younger, in my early 20s or late teens, when I first moved to Vancouver, or even when I was in high school, I'd go out to networking parties and events and, you know, record label parties that I'd get invited to and stuff like that. And I would just be hustling so hard. Like, it was like a work night for me, you know? Like, I would be handing out business cards to people. I'd be trying to introduce myself to every single person in the room, you know, just trying to make connections and be friendly and make friends in the industry and stuff like that. And, you know, it was kind of exhausting. I mean, I enjoyed it at the time, but it was also kind of, you know, it was hard work getting out there in the scene and, you know, making a name for myself and then eventually proving myself when the opportunities came. And, you know, I was thinking about this recently because this past Christmas, I went to a similar type of party, the 604 Records Christmas party here in Vancouver. And it was interesting because I was just in such a different place mentally, you know, this time out. I felt like now I don't have to, you know, prove myself or work so hard to network because I've reached that place where I just feel, you know, at ease and comfortable in my own skin. And I don't feel like I'm constantly out there trying to prove myself or, you know, looking to make that next connection that'll further my career. So it's really a nice place to be, you know, and that only comes from years and years of very hard work. But, you know, it's nice to have that kind of level of fulfillment and feeling like I've finally arrived at the place I always wanted to be in my career. That's not to say I've become complacent though, you know, I've definitely set new goals for myself in recent years, you know, new musical goals or goals related to this YouTube channel or, you know, personal growth or certain financial goals. So yeah, you know, I'm the kind of guy, I've always got something that I'm working towards. But musically speaking and just reflecting on my original, you know, achievements that I wanted to gain coming out of high school and moving to Vancouver, leaving home for the first time, it's nice to be in a place where I've accomplished all of those, and that definitely feels great. This also raises the question too, what is success in the music industry, right? How do we define success in an industry that is so weird and, you know, so vast with so many avenues? And to begin this answer, I want to flash back to a memory I have from about 12 years ago, I guess, when I was in high school. And I remember when I was in grade 12, part of our assignment to one of our classes when we were graduating was we had to make a kind of like roadmap for ourselves, what we were going to do after high school. Like the path we would take to get there, what our planned job was going to be, what a backup plan was going to be. And I remember I put musician as it, right? And I had a whole plan for it. I knew what I needed to do to get there. I was like, I'm going to move here. I'm going to go to music school. I'm going to meet these people. I'm going to get this gear. I'm going to cut my hair a certain way, and I'm going to play for famous artists, right? That's what I wanted to do. And my teacher like pulled me aside, and she was like, yeah, this doesn't work. Like, you can't do music. Like, this isn't a career. And I was like, whoa, like I had to like explain it to her, but just the fact that, somebody of that kind of authority told me I couldn't really do that kind of thing as a career, it really set me off, and it made me want to do it that much more, right? Similarly, I remember telling my parents that I wanted to be a musician, that I wanted to go to music school, after high school, and they were a little shooken up by it as well, I remember. Understandably so, right? Because, there's a career like this is so uncertain. But eventually they came around and were super supportive of the whole thing, which I'm forever grateful for. But yeah, back to that project, I had to tell my teacher, like, no, this is a real thing, and I explained it to her. And I guess I did a pretty good job because she let me submit the assignment that way. But the other thing in the assignment was that you had to put in a backup plan, like a plan B, they called it. And I was like, I don't have a plan B, like, this is what I'm going to do. And I was really adamant about that, I've talked about this on the channel here before, but I do feel like if you have a plan B, that's what you're going to end up doing, right? If you have something to fall back on and something that you can, something that's easier that you can do, you're probably going to end up doing that, because music or anything worth getting is very hard to achieve, right? It's a lot of hard work. So if you do have those days where you're like, you know what, I got this backup plan, I'm just going to do that. That's probably and definitely what you're going to end up doing. At least in my experience, I've seen a lot of people with backup plans, and that's what they do. So I was like, I got no backup plan, and my teacher made me put one, so I just put mailman. It was like the first thing that popped into my head. I was like, I'll be a mailman, just to, get the grade on the assignment. But yeah, I really do believe if you have a backup plan, that's what you're going to end up doing. If you don't have one, then you have no choice but to make music work, or dance, or theater, or whatever, avenue you want to take. This could be applied to anything in the arts. You have to make it work, and so you do. And it can be a tough avenue when you're starting out, It can be a tough ladder to climb, especially at the beginning, when you have no connections or anything. When I first moved to Vancouver here, I didn't know one person. I'm not one person, but I went out every night and I met people, I remember the first night that I moved here, I drove down with my parents and they dropped me off, and then they left, and I was on my own, in my student housing and all that. And I didn't know a single person, and I was feeling very sad and very depressed. I was like, what am I doing here? I miss all my friends back home and my family. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna go out and meet some people, meet some musicians. And so yeah, I went to this bar by my apartment there called the Rusty Gull. And I walked in, there was a band playing, and I was like, perfect. And I went up and introduced myself to them. And they let me get up and play a couple songs with them. I played Sweet Child of Mine, I played Taking Care of Business. And this was my first night ever in Vancouver. And those are the kind of leaps you have to take. I could have sat there in the apartment just being all sad, but I was like, no, I'm gonna get dressed, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna meet some people, and I did. And that's kind of what you have to do, right? And you have to really push yourself through the times when you don't want to do it. It might involve, making a lot of sacrifices, having very low living expenses at the beginning so that you can, pursue your dreams and not be too worried about bills. And, just saying yes to every opportunity that comes up, right? And if you don't have the time for something, you just sleep less, right? You just be tired the next day, because you never know when that one gig is going to be your big break, right? You never know when it's going to happen, when you're going to meet that one person who's going to offer you a big gig or whatever it may be. If you hang in there long enough and you're persistent and you always do a good job, you always show up, eventually it will happen. You just got to hang in there long enough. When I was in high school and university, I would just play for as many artists as I could. I started doing this in grade 11, going out as a guitar player for hire. And I would go get my business card. I'm like, hey, if you need a guitar player, let me know. I'd love to play for you. Eventually, I'd get the call maybe, and start playing shows that way. And yeah, I was very busy doing this because, as I said, I would take any opportunity that was presented to me. I was often playing with like around 10 bands or artists every single month. And it meant, going to school in the morning. In the evenings, I'd go to rehearsals, or I'd be learning songs for my gigs on the weekend. And I would do a lot of, casinos, bars, weddings, that kind of thing in the cover scene. I was playing for a lot of original artists too, who would hire me to play in their bands. And really quickly I started playing on recordings and doing studio sessions and doing a little bit of minor touring, around Canada. And there was one time when I remember my big break came around 2015. So I was at a recording studio at a party that a producer in town was having. And I met a guy there named Sean Hook, and we were just talking like you do at a party. And I had heard his name, I knew that he had a record deal, and he was like had some good stuff on the horizon. He'd had, I think, 3 or 4 songs on the pop charts at that time. And I was like, man, I really want to play guitar for this guy. I really want to do it. So I told him, I was like, yeah, if you ever need a guitar player, let me know. And I gave him my number, and that was it. And I was like, man, I hope he calls me, And 6 months went by, and eventually he did call me, and he's like, hey, my guitar player can't make it to a show. We're playing at the Commodore Ballroom in Vancouver, which is an amazing venue. I'd always wanted to play there. And he asked me if I was available. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm available, And I was like, man, this is my big break. This guy's got a song right now. He just put out his song Sound of Your Heart, which went double platinum. I actually have the plaque for it right there from my work with him as a touring musician. And so anyways, I was like, man, I really want to impress this guy. I want to become a permanent member in his band. And I spent so much time practicing. I bought new gear for that gig. I remember I bought even new clothes and new outfits just for the rehearsals because I wanted to look my best. And I was turning down other paid gigs from different people just so that I'd have more time to practice the songs for the gig. And it was only like a 20-minute set or something. It was only like 5 or 6 songs, I think. But yeah, I really put everything I had into that. And I played every gig with him that he's done ever since then. So yeah, I'm really proud of myself. I did a good job. And together, him and I went on to play like Jimmy Kimmel. We did the Juno Awards a couple times. We did, the Today Show. We did the Much Music Video Awards, several arena tours opening for Marianas Trench and some other bands. So, that was definitely my first big break, I would say, and definitely a lot of my career highlights were playing with Sean, and him and I are still very good friends to this day. And, connections through that eventually led me to getting hired by Andy Black, and now my current gig with Black Veil Brides. And let's have a bit of an honest moment here. So, there's always the chance that you won't achieve these dreams and goals that you set out to, right? There's always a chance that you have these goals, you go and you work very hard and they don't happen. And that's just part of the nature of going out in a competitive industry, right? And the truth is that most people don't realize the dreams that they want. And, I'm aware of this, and that's why I'm, forever grateful every day. But I want to tell you that success in the music industry doesn't always have to mean playing sold-out arena shows or being on the cover of the Rolling Stone magazine. That's a huge misconception, right? From the public eye, it's like if you're out there playing sold-out arenas, you've made it. But I'm trying to tell you that that's not really the case. From personal experience, I've had just the same amount of fulfillment playing smaller club shows when, the band's on fire that night. I know you're firing on all cylinders and you have those awesome gigs. I've had just the same level of fulfillment playing those gigs as I have playing large arena shows at the Juno Awards and stuff like that. And I'm not kidding, so you can definitely get that sense of achievement elsewhere, playing other types of shows. You don't necessarily have to be on the cover of magazines and stuff to be a success in music. And that's not to say those types of shows aren't amazing, you know, they're definitely a blast to play, but you can achieve that same sensation through other mediums in music. When I was younger, I saw things a bit differently, you know, and that's probably why I worked so hard, is because I was so afraid of not seeing the success I wanted. But today, you know, as I've matured, and I'm sure Mila will agree with me, I see things a bit differently, you know. My vision of success now doesn't necessarily mean playing on a tour bus. My definition of success now means that you're able to do music for a living and live the life you want to comfortably. You know, if you can live the life you want through your passion and generate income from that, and, you know, live a comfortable life all through your instrument, to me that is success. Right? And yeah, even if you do set out to be the next famous act, the next Ed Sheeran or whatever, and you don't quite get there, you know, there's so many other ways that you can earn a great living through playing music, right? You know, I have so many friends, like, I don't know, hundreds of friends who do music full time, and they're not famous artists or anything like that, you know. It's definitely possible. A lot of people don't realize that. And although playing smaller shows, like, you know, playing at weddings and stuff like that, although it might not be quite as publicly glamorous, you can still earn a great living doing that type of thing. The same can be applied, of course, to, you know, film, painting, acting, anything in the arts, or anything that's, you know, difficult to attain and achieve. Because even if you do land that big gig you've always wanted, you're still going to have to hustle, right? In fact, you have to work even harder. Because as soon as you start slacking, you're just going to get fired or replaced by somebody who wants it more than you do, right? And, you know, as a result of digital streaming, the revenue in the music industry is significantly lower than it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you know, these bands who used to like own their own planes and stuff like that, that's long gone. It's a thing of the past. You know, that's why, like, even though I'm lucky enough to tour in a famous band, I still do about a dozen side hustles just to live the life I want to comfortably, right? You know, back in the day, you hear stories of people that used to be able to just do studio sessions for a living, or just tour for a living, or, you know, do, you know, arrange charts for big bands for a living, or whatever it is, right? Nowadays, you kind of have to be able to do all of that stuff, right? You got to wear as many hats as possible. In fact, you got to wear all the hats. You got to have such a wide skill set. And that's why I do so many things, you know. In addition to touring, I do producing, I do studio sessions, you know, in person and remotely through the internet. I do a little bit of teaching, I do YouTube, I do cameo videos, I sell my own merch, I do gigs around town, I do weddings and casinos and all that when I'm not on tour. You know, there's so many avenues that you have to take to make it as a musician these days. So even if you do achieve that big gig and, you know, that dream level tour bus gig you always wanted, you know, you're still gonna have to hustle. So yeah, you know, I just want to say I'm so grateful to every artist, musician, producer, band who has given me an opportunity so far, an opportunity to prove myself, and trusted me with their music, trusted me to deliver their message musically. You know, I wouldn't be where I am without all of you, and it means so much. I want to say thanks to my family, my friends, you know, my beautiful wife Rita. And it's cool to be 30 now, you know, entering a new chapter. Feels cool. Really happy to be here. So yeah, lots more stuff planned for the channel this year. We're going back out on tour in a couple months, so really excited for that. Gonna be making some more tour vlogs at that time. And yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Lonnie Eagleton. We'll see you next time.